In 2010, Steve Jobs was being interviewed for the New York Times, and in the interview, they actually asked him if his kids liked the iPad, to which he replied, "They haven't used it. We limit how much technology our kids are able to access." Maybe that's surprising to you, maybe that's not surprising to you, but that's surprising to me. And what's even more surprising is that there are other sources that talk about Steve Jobs as well as Bill Gates and other billionaires and tech people, um, how their dinner goes with their kids and their loved ones, and how they have very strict screen time and screen rules, and how they actually talk about art and culture and the classics and films at the dinner table instead of, I don't know, anything else that's going on in the world, news, anything you would see on YouTube or doom scrolling or anything like that. And on top of that, I've been learning that in Silicon Valley, a lot of the tech people have been sending their kids to specialized schools, schools that actually don't have any screens, schools that take their kids outdoors and teach them real life skills, schools that teach them how to cook, how to, I don't know, identify plants even. And what really was over the top is especially schools that didn't have screens. They didn't use iPads for the kids or the Chromebooks or anything like that. Whereas when I think about like a cool modernized school, it's usually the ones with like the really nice iPads or the MacBook Pros that you get to take home, and like I would visualize that. And instead, they are opting out of that. And it might be obvious as to why. I think it's extremely obvious to most people at this point in time. But it wasn't obvious in 2010 when Steve Jobs was first talking about this. And I feel like he knew what was coming for the rest of us and what was coming for his kids and his kids' kids and all of that. And I feel like he was able to warn his kids more than we were able to warn our kids. Now, this isn't literally anything to do with Steve Jobs. It's just the fact that people know, like at the top, people know that what is most important usually isn't anything that we will find on our screens. What is most important is the classics, is books, is certain types of cinema and film or screenplays or poetry or paintings and art in general. And one of the best tips you can actually cultivate is creativity, is learning how to be in tune with yourselves, is learning how to see things from a different point of view from, especially from the masses. And that is how new businesses get created, that is how new inventions get created. And in a world full of tech advancements that are way more advanced than humans ever could be, that is the only thing that is going to be left for these tech people to teach their kids, is how to be creative, how to do the arts, how to learn about the arts in a way that changes your brain for the better. And I really believe that whether it was on purpose or not, you can go for either. But I believe that the demonization of arts was on purpose, or maybe could have been on purpose, because when we think about the arts, we only think about a means to an end now. Like, oh, either they're a starving artist, or, oh, they finally are able to pay their bills from their art, which obviously, yes, that's amazing to strive for. And I think most everyone would strive for that. But what I want to argue is that we have lost the meaning of art and creating just to create for our soul, to create to connect again to ourselves and to others. That has nothing to do with capitalism or monetary gain and whatnot. And obviously, if you are able to make money and a living from your art, good on you. I think that's incredible. But I think even the person that's a lawyer in Manhattan and wants to do nothing else besides be a lawyer, but maybe needs an outlet, maybe needs to cope with the stress of his job, and is able to find that in painting or in crafting or whatever. Like, I think that is lost more than anything. And I think that, you know, the iPad or social media or the iPhone has really made us into consumers. Consumers. We consume so much media, especially in so much everything, propaganda, rage bait, freaking AI slop. It doesn't matter, but I feel like also what you consume is also what you output, if that makes sense. Your inputs create your outputs. And when we're consuming something that is generated by a robot, or no, like someone didn't put a lot of time or effort into, or it's actually meant to harm you in some sort of way, emotionally or spiritually. What do you think your outputs are going to be as well? But that's kind of for, a tangent for a different time. I just think that the tech people know something, and we all are feeling something tangible. In 2026, I feel like I see everywhere that everyone is complaining about culture and how there's no culture, and the death of pop culture, and how there's no big mono culture, like especially positive ones that we are all connecting to together, and how everything is doom and gloom, and how people feel like there's a huge thing around the corner that's even worse than the thing before, which I feel that same way too sometimes. Like, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop when it comes to 2026 because of how much crazy stuff has happened in the past. In the past 5 years, even, it's a different world than what's been happening in the past 5 years. And I think that this is the time that artists, creatives, anything of any sort need to band together need to band together, or just regular people, and create something better. I think the Renaissance is coming, and I'm excited about it. Also, it's really Fresca time. I'm so sorry about that, but like, mm, just like the Renaissance is coming back, I think Fresca's coming back. I think it has come back, especially in my household, but everybody needs to drink Fresca. So freaking divine. I used to be a Sprite Zero girl, but I'm a Fresca girl through and through. Um, I have been down a rabbit hole, as I always have, as I always will. No matter what I'm doing in my life, I will always be going down a rabbit hole. And that is where I think YouTube's a little different. Where if you use YouTube as a tool, it's a little different than other social media platforms, but you also need to be careful with your consumption on YouTube, just like anything else. And I fell upon this amazing algorithm poll from this YouTuber named Medieval Times, or oh no, it's at Medieval Mindset. I will tag him in the comments below because he is the historian in this story. I do not know a lot about history, but he really changed my mindset when it came to what is happening historically in our modern time today. Like, what does it look like? And he claims that we are living in the medieval times. The medieval times, for, lack of a better way of explaining this because I'm not a historical person, is people were living in the shadow of what the Roman Empire was. So, what the Roman Empire was able to build, what they were able to talk about and create and do. When Roman fell, the medieval times started. And because of that, they felt like they weren't creating anything nearly as good or as cool as the Roman Empire. And so, also, there was a lot of things that were happening. One of them was that literacy rates were declining, which we are also seeing today. What's really cool about this YouTuber is he pulls a lot of similarities between the medieval times and how he claims that we're living in the medieval times too. But oh my gosh, I literally can't say that word, which is so ironic. Literacy rates are declining. Another one was that there was a plague, which I don't know where you've been 5 years ago, but kind of was the same thing. Um, Another one was that he talks about how people were just reverting back to the old works from the Roman Empire because nothing new and original was being created that meant a lot to the people. And so instead, we had commentators way back in the medieval times talking about the other saints of the Roman Empire instead of coming up with new things. Also, I'm so sorry if you hear a dog because there's a dog that is in my house and he is barking. But something else that I think is cool that this guy talked about when it came to the times that we are living in today, which is the medieval times, the modern medieval times, is he also talks about how the Renaissance will be coming, or a Renaissance will be coming, because during the medieval times, there were little pockets of light of Renaissance, like a Renaissance period. We think of one Renaissance period, but there was multiple Renaissance periods, which I didn't know. I had no idea. But he was naming off all these other Renaissance periods where really common folk, people that weren't well educated or weren't from certain crowds that were high up in the you know, what is it called? High up in the order of things. People that were like working in the mills or working as peasants or whatever, started writing poetry again, started painting, even architecture started becoming more beautiful. And that is something that I also have seen more and more of, is how we have lost beauty in so many different facets of life. In modern architecture, I am telling you, If I'm a hater of anything in this world, I am a hater of modern architecture. I hate it. I don't say that lightly. I don't use the hate word a lot, but I hate it. Those box houses that are meant to be like mansions and all the cool people live in them, hate them. Hate them. Give me a cottage that's a third of the size with more land with a view. And I would take that every single time over the freaking box houses that have sad beige or white all over the walls, no type of rugs or maximalist anything. No stones on the outside, siding of any kind. Like there's nothing to it. It's just glass and it's boxy and it's gray. I hate gray. I hate it. Oh my gosh, I hate gray, especially because I've been renting for so long, or like I've lived in multiple rentals. They always choose gray. Why gray? Out of any color, really gray? That's so sad. I don't know. I could talk about that literally for a whole other episode of just how modern architecture versus old architecture. We need to get back. We need to get back to the stained glass. We need to get back to everything that has to do with old architecture. And there is actually a belief that this guy also was talking about how there used to be a belief that beauty was able to ascend you into like a different realm, into a better, more spiritual realm of connectedness with you and God or source. And so even in like the old churches and cathedrals and stuff, that's why they had so much stained glass. And no piece of the wall didn't have any sort of design in it. There was design in every single piece of the wall, intention in every single part of the architecture. And if that doesn't explain to me like where we have been lost, like look at architecture, it'll show you. It'll show you. Even office spaces. I truly believe that like now I don't think anyone should be in a cubicle all day every day. I don't. But like if you made it beautiful, if you made the space beautiful and had intentionality behind it and color and artwork, like that would raise, I feel like that would raise people's vibration, you know? It would make the work environment better. But that's just my opinion. Anyways, I have been thinking about this so much because I really do believe that we are witnessing the death of culture. And I was looking at the Grammy nominees recently. Not to say that there's not incredible, amazing artists. And like I want to make music one day and even films and cinema. There's still good art coming out. But what is rising to the top of the collective and what is getting popular, I would argue isn't the best artwork that we have today. And for some reason, people's tastes, I feel like, are eroding over time. I don't know how else to explain it other than that because you look at like the Grammy nominees 40 years ago, which I saw this from Rick Beato. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he does a lot of like music content and I love him. He's a great YouTuber, but he was comparing the Grammy nominees from today, from 40 years ago, and what the best songs of the year were. The discrepancy, the gap in which we have is crazy. You want to know what songs were nominated in 40 years ago? Two songs from Michael Jackson. I'm pretty sure one of them was Beat It. I can't remember what the other one was. One song from Sting, which is Every Step You Take. It's like every step you take, every man you make, I'll be watching you, which I've always thought that's kind of a weird song, but regardless, it was still a good song. It's just like, really? You're competing against Michael Jackson? I don't think we have anything like that today. I don't. But I will say if I were to choose one of my favorite songs of the year or the nominee of the Grammys for the year, who I think should win is Billie Eilish. Through and through. I think her song Wildflower. Let me look it up. Let me look it up real quickly. Grammy nominees, best song of the year. Okay, Anxiety by Doechii, Abracadabra by Lady Gaga, APT by Rose and Bruno Mars, DTMF by Bad Bunny, Golden by Huntrix. Oh, that's like the Dragon Slayer thing. Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA, Manchild by Sabrina Carpenter, or Wildflower by Billie Eilish. I'm sorry, I think Billie Eilish won. And on top of that, Rick Beato has a really good thought about how a lot of these other songs were written by like 11 songwriters. And it's like, Why? I don't know. I don't know. But maybe if they felt like that was what was going to create the best song, then great. To each their own. To each their own. But I do have to say, like, you look at the Grammy nominations, you look at how Stranger Things, the finale just ended, and it seems like there's a hole. There's a little bit of a hole, like it was rushed, or there's something missing, or people's tastes are off, or something, and everyone can feel it. And then you look at like what's happening in the world today, and it's like, what is what is happening? And then you go to your job, and then your boss yells at you, and then you sit there and you're like, you try and listen to a song or listen to your podcast on a podcast on a break, and you're like, what are these people even saying? Why does this even matter? What's a good song that's gonna make me feel something? And then nothing on the top charts are gonna make you feel anything. I don't know. I don't know. And then you try and watch the ending of your show when you get home from your hard day of work, and then you sit there and you watch the ending of Stranger Things, and then you cry, and then you go to work the next day. I don't know. What do we do? I know what we do. And this is something that I have found recently in 2026, which I talked about how I get ready for 2026 in my last podcast. So I'll link that up here somewhere. But what do we do? Something I've been doing that seems weird, maybe seems like you're going to turn this video off once you hear this thought, is I have been crafting. I have been crafting like nobody's freaking business, okay? I have made more crafts in the past 2 months than I have in my lifetime. But I will say, something that I have found is even the act of creating anything, anything at all, matters so much. I feel calmer, I feel clear, I feel better than I would have if I would watch a YouTube video or doom scrolled. In which granted I was crafting sometimes when I was watching like something, so that's like fine. But like I would get so lost in the flow of crafting and something especially to do with hands. Like the hands really made me connect to myself more, connect to my body more as I was doing it. And your consciousness doesn't just get lost in the ether of your phone, of doom scrolling, because I really do feel like that. I feel like we are being consumed. Like when you are consuming stuff, you are also being consumed. Your soul is being consumed, and how you revitalize that is by creating. I made bag charms. I made a freaking leather traveler's journal, pocket sized. It's amazing. I almost want to show you. Where is it? I don't think I have it. I don't know. Maybe I'll put it up here in like a little thing. But yeah, I made so many things for Christmas too, and I realized like that is something I'm going to take with me, because even if I never sold the bag charm, if I never gave it to anyone, if no one ever even saw the creation that I had, I still was happy that I did it. Way happy. I felt so much better. And crafting, I feel like is coming back in a big way, and I think it is for me, but also like this is where I want to look at like Pinterest predictions and where other people are looking to. Just like the medieval times, people are reverting back. They're reverting back to nostalgia, to how things were before technology, exactly how medieval times were looking at the Roman Empire. We are looking back. I bought a rotary phone. Basically, it's a landline. It's amazing. I love it. I miss owning stuff. So I miss like physical books. I used to want a Kindle, and now I'm like, no, I want physical books in my possession. Another thing I want is like iPods. Like people have been buying songs on iTunes that they actually own and downloading it onto an iPod that they bought on eBay. That is totally reverting back to the old way of doing things, because when we look forward, we can't see anything good. There's nothing good. And so we have to revert back until we sit at this cliff and then jump off into the Renaissance, into the whimsy. Even if you look at my Instagram, like my Instagram bio, this is such like a girly thing to talk about, but like I changed my Instagram bio for this year, and it was very important to me. And what it says is for the sake of whimsy, because I feel like that is everything I need and more. I need my life to be more whimsical, my decor to be more whimsical, the way I'm dressing to be more whimsical. I'm it's just like there needs to be more maximalism because of how much minimalism and how many things have been taken away from us. I don't know. Maybe I'm going literally crazy. But I think a lot of people are. That's kind of the sad truth of it all. I think people are going freaking crazy right now. But gosh, I don't even know where I was talking about. Let's see. I just think that art is always the way back home to ourselves, the way back home to each other, even. Like, I just took my first acting class, well, my first group acting class. And when I tell you, people of all ages were in there. I couldn't believe the people that were in there. There was this guy that was wearing his veteran uniform. And he was probably literally 80 years old. And guess what? We were all sitting there playing make believe, playing pretend with each other, pretending that we were cops and we were doing bank heists and bank whatever. And I just like people were so connected to each other and so like in each other's faces and screaming and losing it and crying, but it was like the real human experience. And I think people need more of that. That's exactly why I did it too. Is like I wanted to create, especially create in person, but even by yourselves. You can do whatever you want. You can be whatever you want, but you have to be willing to one, feel uncomfortable because you're going to feel bored, especially when I started reading this year. I started to feel so bored after like 5 pages that I wanted to look at my phone. And it's like you really need to get back to that and you literally feel your brain healing after that. Or I started a book club and I it's like now one of my freaking favorite things of the week because I'm in person, I'm talking about things I'm consuming but in like a really meaningful way. It's like you have to almost have radical actions in this modern world because it's so easy to just be modern. It's so easy to be to have the convenience. I think that's the same thing with sourdough making. It's so easy to go to the store and buy a loaf of sourdough bread or buy a loaf of white bread. But then you look at like how sourdough was made in the past and how wheat was actually stripped of all of its nutrients. So the flour you buy at the store is actually dead compared to the nutrients you could buy if you milled your own flour. And so people revert back to making their own sourdough and milling their own flour and how the bread is actually so freaking good. Oh, I wish I almost had a flour mill, but I do not have time for that. But that's another hobby slash craft that I want to get into because you look at the old way of doing things and maybe it wasn't wrong in the first place. Maybe it was right in the first place. And we changed it because of convenience, but that's not always the right way to do things. And obviously, I think about that with AI art. John Bellion had a podcast recently that I listened to, and he's amazing. I love him. I love him. Um, and he had a podcast recently, and he was talking about how people were asking him, like, why did you travel all the way to Iceland for your music video? Why didn't you just do an AI music video? And he's like, well, why don't I just make AI music at this point? Like, you're going to have to choose to do the hard thing because it's good for you, because it's good for your soul, and because it's good for other people's souls. And you're going to have to choose to not use the AI. And I'm not completely an AI hater. I think AI has a time and place for things that it'll be good for. But I don't think art is one of them, especially if it's completely generating the entire piece of art and you didn't put any part of your soul into it. But I digress. I think if 2026, there's anything you can do, it is be more whimsical. I think that, like, you look at where the tech people are going and where their future is, but then also what they're telling their kids, and there's a huge discrepancy between those. So look at what they're telling their kids and their the future generations that they care about. I think it's so much more to do with us protecting our souls, us coming back, and I feel like there's like a meme that I'm thinking of in my head, and it's like the guy, freak, what is his name? The British are coming guy, Thomas Adam, something Adams. I gotta look this up. I gotta learn something today. Maybe you're gonna learn something today. Guy who said the British are coming. Okay, obviously I knew this before. Don't think I'm stupid. Paul Revere. Duh. Oh my gosh. Also, if you haven't listened to Noah Kahan's song, Paul Revere, that's a really good song. I'm so dumb. Okay, Paul Revere. I feel like I'm doing like the whole Paul Revere thing right now. Like, the Renaissance is coming, the Renaissance is coming, the Renaissance is coming. Like, you just gotta create, okay? And you are a part of it if you wanna be a part of it. And even if you're bad, it doesn't matter because art is for your soul. And this is where I will leave in telling you a story of someone that I learned about recently in the summer when I was on a Europe trip with my family, and it will stick with me forever. There is a man who is literally world famous for being the worst poet in history. Now he is passed on. He is in the cemetery. I actually can't remember, but it was in Scotland when we went there. And what we were learning was J.K. Rowling was walking around Scotland to kind of get bits and pieces for Harry Potter. And the poet's name is William McGonagall, which, if you don't know, one of the professors in the Harry Potter series is something McGonagall. I can't remember her name. My mom's going to kill me for that. She's such a Harry Potter fan. Professor McGonagall. But basically, William McGonagall was known to be the worst poet in history, and he was trying to be good. But people wanted him to read his poems, or started wanting him to read his poems because of how bad they were. But he did it anyways, and now people go and visit his grave and like pay respects to him and love him for that. And if that's not a reason to make art anyways, I don't know what is. Obviously, yeah, if you're a poet, maybe you don't want to be known as the worst poet in history, but at least you created and he made a name for himself. And I want to read you one of his poems because I truly think it's so it's so funny when I was reading some of his poems. I loved it. Okay. There's a few other ones, and I'm trying to find one about a cow, but this one's about the Tay Bridge disaster, which I'm pretty sure there was a bridge that like fell down, and so he wrote a poem about it, and it says, "Beautiful railway bridge of the silvery Tay. Alas, I am very sorry to say that 99 lives have been taken away on the last Sabbath day of 1879, which will be remembered for a very long time. 'Twas about 7 o'clock at night, and the wind blew with all its might, and the rain came pouring down, and the dark clouds seemed to frown, and the demon of the air seemed to say, I'll blow down the bridge of Tay." When the train left Edinburgh, the passengers' heart were light and felt no sorrow. But Boris blew a terrific gale, which made their hearts for to quail. And many of the passengers with fear did say, I hope God will send us safe across the bridge of Tay. That's actually sad. Anyways, it goes longer than that, but I think that's funny and I love it. I love it. It's like, it's so bad, it's good in a good way. And I love his story because it really does show us all. I think we need to create more. I think we need to not care about being cringe and just create anyways. 2026 is literally a year for me that I'm going to create as much as I can. I don't care how bad I am. That's why I'm doing group acting. I don't care how bad I am. That's why I want to produce a song. I don't care how bad I am. I just am so sick of it. If there's one thing I would rather be, I would rather seem to be too much and trying too many things and being crazy than doing nothing at all with my life. I'm just way past the point of that. I think it's you're going to have way more stories to tell. And if there's one thing that I thought about, and I don't know if I made this up, but I made this up in my own head, you know, in the own world and existence that I have. Do it for the memoir is what I think. If you're writing one day, think about all of the weird, crazy things you want to try and do them anyways. All the weird poetry, like write poetry and then read it and be like, oh, that sucked, but that's funny, I wrote it. Like I've done little stuff like that and I love it. And even like my pocket journal, I did it and it sucked and the stitches are so crappy, but it's my journal, my leather working journal that I made with my bare hands. I think it's awesome. And I think skills are so important to acquire. Physical skills. I think they're so important. So anyways, I will leave you with that. I am making a new playlist coming soon. So if you guys have a favorite song for 2026 you want me to put in the playlist, please put it in the comments below. I have another fall playlist called For When the Air Gets Crisp that I will put in the comments below as well. I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope you tell me everything you want to do in this 2026 year and how you're going to be more whimsical or tips and tricks or crafts you've been wanting to try or have tried. And also anything else you want me to cover, whether it's culture, pop culture, the news, anything. I am your gal. I love yapping and I love talking. And I will see you next time. Bye. If this world were mine, ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.